I was calculating, I'm like,
Yeah, I'm gonna
the rest of my
get it
tuition for
started.
this semester so I can walk. I need to win at least second place, or like something, yeah.
Okay,
And then did you guys
let's get started so we don't waste John's time or anyone else's. Okay, so, wow, we have a small group today. Where's everybody?
Yeah.
We're representing the.
I know, I'm glad you guys are here.
We're here. Come on.
We had-
Scrambling, trying to finish their plans tonight.
Everyone is spring break.
Let's hope that's our.
We had spring break tomorrow, that's why.
That makes sense.
Oh, we'll say finishing our plans, that sounds better.
That
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's fair, I guess. Well, pass everything along, but everyone will get an email out to everyone. Do we have a sign-in sheet, Josh?
Yeah, sorry.
Let's go.
Oh, were we supposed to do those?
Actually, your sign-up will count as your sign-in for this. So, sign-ups for presentation slots, you guys are here, so you get first dibs on slots. Let's make sure this is clear. Let me explain how these work so that everyone's on the same page. So, you've got the 90-second pitch, right, which is your
Yeah.
quick elevator style, and then you've got the full presentation. On both of them, the time slots available are on the right, and then put your team name and your first and second time preferences. Does that make sense? Yes?
Yeah.
Fine?
So like it's separate, like the time things are separate. So of these times, pick two of your
Oh,
most
Your
favorite.
first
Okay.
top choices.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
So team name and then first and second
these
choice.
two, first and second choice.
We have to make up a team's name.
Well, your company name or
Oh.
whatever you're called. That would be, yeah. Your company name.
You need to present yourself in some way. You have to say, this is...
This is Kitty.
Good question.
Yes.
So,
Are you not sure what your company name is since you just changed?
no, I do, it's just that I have to go to the wedding at 11.
Okay.
So, let's say it's a 9:50 to 10:10.
Okay.
Would I stay later after that for anything?
No, I mean you can come back for the award ceremony if you want to, but you don't have to. So that's the, yeah, if you've got a wedding to go to, it's a good thing you're here. Pick the first
yeah,
slot.
I got my award. Okay, we're good.
The one thing is the 90-second competition, is that...
Yeah, you might just not be eligible to compete in the 90 second if the time doesn't line up. That's the only.
I'll go first.
Okay, yeah, that'll be fine. Don't book yourself so you're doing both at the same time. That would.
I won't.
Okay, NDA and rules agreement. Has everyone signed the NDA and the rules?
Wait, sorry,
Yes.
I have a
No idea.
question.
Go ahead.
Okay, honestly, I came to this thing out of curiosity.
Okay.
So I don't know what the 90-second pitch is and what we're supposed to do.
Okay, so did you see the email that Ryan sent out maybe a week or two ago? With it was about a 15-minute video that walked you through what the 90-second pitch should contain. And if not, send me an email and I'll get you a copy of that. But that was done by the director of fast pitches at Tech Coast Angels, which is one of the top angel investment firms. So that if you follow what they're suggesting, you'll be in good shape.
Okay.
So everyone needs to get the NDA signed if you haven't, and the rules agreements. Those are up front here. And then something else, Ryan sent out an email requesting everyone's final company names. And if you have a logo of some kind, that would be fun to send as well, because we'll put those up on the slot on the screen. If you don't have one, that's okay, but not a requirement, but it's nice to have. And did anyone not get shirts? That's here. Did everyone get a shirt that's here?
Yes, yes.
Did you guys get shirts in the back? We have t-shirts if you want them. We have a bunch. They're good for the gym if you want to.
I want to mine.
Yeah, Josh will take care of those then. Okay. And then, without delaying things any further, this is John Hing.
That's right.
So let's welcome John, and he will present for us today on making a business presentation and pitch. And please give him your attention for the next hour.
Okay. Well, first
I'll let
off,
you introduce yourself.
No, thank you for coming tonight, and it's actually a real pleasure to be here. So one of my mantras in life is that smart is what you learn from books. Wisdom is what you learn from your mistakes. Okay, so I'm here partly because I kind of know what I'm doing, but I think also because I've made a lot of mistakes along the way as an entrepreneur. And hopefully that tonight you can glean a bit of wisdom from a lot of the mistakes that I've made, right? So let's first start. Let me kind of introduce myself, kind of have you guys figure out why John is speaking with me and not someone else, right? First off, I am a what you call a serial entrepreneur, but I didn't actually start out my career that way. Undergrad, I was an English and History double major at UC Irvine, and from there I actually went into investment banking. So I was in investment banking in that industry for about 20 years or so. Okay, I focused on sell-side advisory. Right, so I advised my firm and individually advised companies who, for one reason or another, needed to sell, find a buyer, etc. So I was with Citigroup on that level. I did everything from valuations to deal making, etc. From there, I went off on my own, doing much the same thing. About after 15 years with Citigroup, I decided to go out on my own and started Ing Advisory Group. The group comes from me, myself, and I, right? So it's just a boutique firm, essentially doing the same thing. And really out of that process of Ing Advisory Group, where I kind of got connected with a lot of folks, entrepreneurs, so it went from just, hey, representing companies who want to sell to, hey, I have this business idea, what do you think, right? Hey, I started this startup like a year ago, I'm going nowhere, what's wrong, right? So that's where really I got my entrepreneurial itch scratched, right? So out of that, I became involved in the startup scene, right? So I, just counting in terms of my role as a CFO, as an investor, as an advisor, been formally involved in about 6 different startups, okay? From education technology to social networking to most recently financial technology, and very recently we just launched a social networking platform focused on calendaring called HeyYou, H-E-Y-O-O, right? So it's available in the Apple App Store, Google Play, and on the web. So if you go to heyu.life, that's my latest startup. By the way, as I kind of finish the introduction, anticipate that this is a workshop, right? So it's not going to be me standing up here and talking to you guys. I really want some interactions, right? So that's where I kind of got really involved in the startup world. And that's really my passion, right? And it's kind of stuff that I do as passion projects on the side. Most recently, you know, I was the CFO and COO of a 1,000-member church in Santa Ana called New Song Community Church. So, so my assignment ended in end of December. I was there about 4 years, a member of that church for 15 plus years, and in many ways, the reason why I was brought in was really driven on the desire for the church to embark in a new direction. So in many ways, my involvement even with New Song was very entrepreneurial in nature, because they were actually shifting campuses from Irvine to Santa Ana. Even though there are a few, you know, just a few miles apart, you can imagine the demographic differences of an Irvine versus a Santa Ana. So there were some big changes for the church. So even with in my church involvement, it's still entrepreneurial at the root of things. So yes, so that's why I said at the beginning of my introduction, I'm by definition you're a serial entrepreneur. All right. So let's get started. So I've introduced myself, and since we have a very small group, I'd like to take the opportunity for us to kind of, at least for my sake, right? You guys know each other for the most part. But introduce yourself, your name, and really quick, this is a test on your pitching. You know, just real quick, what is your idea? So let's get started. Okay.
Should I go?
Yeah.
You're good.
Hi everyone, my name is Anissa. What else do we say? Just little
Yeah,
quick
just your
about ourselves.
idea, yeah.
I'm a senior at Concordia University Irvine studying international business and marketing. And our idea is a peer-to-peer lending platform, specifically an app targeting, I would say, business professionals from the ages of 50 and up that have a nice disposable income.
Okay. Excellent. That sounds very intriguing. Yeah.
Thank
Got
you.
the buzzwords in it, peer-to-peer.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, my name is Danielle, I'm a senior at Concordia University as well. My product is Jambox, and I am creating this product basically to help you prevent porch pirates from stealing your packages.
Excellent. Okay.
Hi, I'm Kimberly. I go to school here and I'm a freshman. My majors are business management and business marketing. My idea is to have switching menu. So you guys know Tasty Made, right? Or Tasty.
I think, yes, I think I
So you know like those really quick videos of cooking?
Oh,
Yeah.
Anyway, so my idea is to like have their restaurant open and like have them switch off the menus every few months and trying out new stuff that they have on videos.
Okay.
And my name is Kristen West, and I'm a senior also here at Concordia University, and I've had a couple of instructors encourage me to take part in the business plan competition, but because of classes I wasn't able to, and I watched online. So I don't have a formal pitch or presentation for an idea. I am involved in a lot of nonprofits and a lot that we have started up ourselves, and so I hope to be a part of the business plan competition next year.
Okay.
Cool.
Awesome.
So
So
you're way ahead of everyone else then.
Yeah.
You started a year early.
Yeah.
They're lucky you're not competing with them.
I'm graduating.
So give us a couple ideas or a couple of
Maybe
thoughts.
that's why okay, so we are very actively involved in motocross.
Okay.
And so we've started a couple of nonprofits that are motocross affiliated. One of them was called The Track, and it's a non-profit Christian motocross camps.
Okay.
And so that was running for about a year, and we also did Bible studies, and then we went out to the tracks and we did Christian camps with the kids at the same time that we were motocross training them as well. And then that one kind of fizzled out. The trainers all kind of moved away. We weren't nationwide yet. We were just really local. And so we just decided to kind of end it. And the other one that I'm involved in is Kirk Caselli Foundation. And that one is actually pretty big. It's off-road safety, so still motocross affiliated, but it's off-road safety. It doesn't have a religious affiliation, but that one is currently bringing in about $250,000 revenue. So it's only been in operation for 4 years, so it's doing amazing. Like, they're doing phenomenal. But they partnered with a corporation, which a lot of nonprofits are doing right now. So that was something, that's a very big key to their success, was that nonprofit and corporate partnership that they have. So.
Excellent. That's great. All right, let's get started. So we took care of the introduction. So like I said, this is really workshop style. Okay, so I'm going to try to minimize my talking and really allow you guys. Really, the idea is that some of these key components as I go through, actually give you a few minutes to kind of apply it to your idea, right? So you can actually, this is double beneficial because you can get some work done and get some leg up with some of your competitors, right? So we're going to talk about what the key components are of a winning pitch, right? And I'm going to propose to you the 12 slides of your pitch deck, right? These are 12 slides that you should have in one form or another. I'll talk a little bit about your 90-second elevator pitch, and then give you some really big picture about do's and don'ts, right? And then we'll end with some Q&A, right? So I'm going to actually be leading this discussion from the perspective of more focus on how to do well in your pitch competition. But you can really say if you do well in the pitch competition, you can really say that I'm going to also show you guys, or at least discuss as a group, how to get your startup funded, right? Because that's what matters, right?
Yeah.
There are great ideas. There are 1,000,001 great ideas out there,
Yeah.
right? But number one, you got to get it funded, you have to execute on it. Without that, they're just ideas, right? So, let's start out with a question. I know this may seem a little bit of a downer, right? We're talking about, hey, how do I put together a fundable pitch, etc. And then here's John here starting out with this question. Why do startups fail? Right? So let's kind of, I'm going to ask, all right, just some ideas. And, why do you think startups fail?
We run out of money too fast.
Okay, yeah, burn rate, right? Run out of money too fast, okay? Why else?
They don't consider the competition or government regulations.
Okay, right? Competition, external, right? When you do your, I'm sure in your business plan, you did one form or another of a SWOT analysis, right? Okay. What other ideas, what other reasons would you say, could you point to for why startups fail?
Your idea sucks.
Yeah.
There you go, your idea sucks. Believe it or not,
That's true.
bad ideas are funded all the time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You think that once you get past the point of getting funded, your idea must have been really good that got funded. But bad ideas get funded all the time. Okay, so that's obvious, but you'd be surprised. Okay, well, what are some other reasons?
I would say from a marketing standpoint, maybe they made like one wrong move and that just tarnished their reputation.
Okay, all right. Made the wrong move
Yeah.
and didn't maybe pivot.
Yeah,
And then kind of tried to stay their course, right? There's a delicate balance in running startups and companies in general, right? You want to be true to the vision of your organization and what you want to do, right? But you got to know when to kind of cut your losses and make the appropriate pivot, right? And that was kind of a story behind the first startup that I ever got involved in. I was an investor in that startup, and I was the CFO. We made it through a Series B round. We raised about $4 million, etc. But we started out as a social networking platform, okay, called BuzzMob, BuzzMob. We made a series of pivots. So today we are a education technology platform called AppleTree, right? So if you go to goappletree.com, you'll see the huge pivot that we've made. So now we focus on selling our platform to schools nationally. It's a communications platform. So yes, marketing, and then you just don't react quick enough, and then bye-bye, right? All right. Any other reasons? You guys can participate too.
Problems with the founders, your founders not getting along?
Yes, exactly, right? And you'll see that when I kind of share what are kind of the 12 slides that you should include in your deck. One of them is the team, right? And then I'll share, probably after this slide, kind of the components of a winning pitch, and you'll see how important the team is, right? Because what happens is, as you can imagine, you go through a honeymoon period. Hey, everyone's excited. Everyone just got funded, right? Then ideas, hey, rah, 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 right? But as you kind of progress along, things don't happen as quickly as you want. Little roadblocks along the way. Then, the next person starts to be, a little bit, personality clash and things like that. You bring on maybe investors that you love the size of the check they wrote, but you don't think long term that, okay, is there a fit not only in terms of the check they can write, but in terms of how they fit in with the culture of your vision, right? So that's really important. That's excellent. Any other? Can you think of anything?
I would thought about the money problem, like running out of money, but she said it.
Okay. Yeah. Cash is king, right? All right. So I came across an article from Forbes, and so they kind of here the top reasons why startups fail, right? No market need is number one, almost half, right? That's you have a dumb idea, right? Ran out of cash, right? That's the second reason. Not the right team. Third reason, get out-competed. You know, pricing cost issues, poor product, etc., poor marketing. So you can look down the line. The point is, right, in the startup world, just as in the business world, there are so many pitfalls, right? So many pitfalls. So why do you think we kind of start our discussion on how to make a winning deck with a discussion on why startups fail?
To solve those problems.
Yeah, so when you,
To convince
right?
the investor that you're not going to do those things.
Exactly, right? So the investment game is a risk game, right? High risk, high reward, right? An investor can go ahead and put their money in Wells Fargo CD account and, you know, have it pretty reasonably safe, right? Or they can, you know, put it in a startup, right? And their goal is to make sure they want to understand what the risks are involved in your business proposition, right? So it's really important. I would conjecture that as entrepreneurs and in looking at your business, you need to anticipate that these are the risks, right? That's involved in and as you're putting together your pitch deck, that you're addressing a lot of these things, right? By the way, I already told them this PowerPoint will be made available to you, so no need to copy anything like that, right? So I really want this to be kind of discussion oriented, etc. But if the way you learn is taking notes, please, by all means, right? So that's why I started our discussion on why startups fail. Not to be a bummer, right? Not any of that, but to really have you guys understand from the perspective of the judges that will be kind of listening to your pitch and all that. They're looking about these. They know what these reasons are, right? And they want to make sure that what you're presenting is addressing a lot of these issues. Okay? Any questions? Don't hesitate to interrupt, raise your hand, blurt out, that's fine. We're in a small enough group that we can do that.
We're good at that, don't worry.
All right. So, components of a winning pitch. Okay? So I would extrapolate that and say these are also components of a fundable deal. Okay? So if I look at these components in terms of a pie chart, this is, in my opinion, based on my experience, what I would, again, these numbers can kind of shift a little bit, but you can see here, half of that winning pitch is, your idea has to be a pretty good one, right? Right? So I would say that half of a component of a winning pitch is about the idea, about your company, right? It's about what that idea is, what you're trying to do, the problem that you're trying to solve, and the solution that you're presenting. And then the other half is comprised of three components. 20%, the team, right? And some would say that's even higher, right? I think once you kind of get to funding and all that, the team is, some would say it's just as important as the idea, right? For the reasons we kind of talked about, right? And then there's the actual pitch. Whether you're doing it in front of 5 judges, right? Or you're doing it in a small conference room with an investor and his financial advisor. The pitch is important. And then something that people ignore is the Q&A afterward, 10%, right? And I'll talk a little bit about that. The Q&A is an opportunity for the investor, your judges, to kind of point out holes in your idea, in your business proposition. And if you're not prepared for that, the law of primacy and recency, that's going to be the last thing that they kind of impression they get of you, right? But if you're prepared for that, and you're confident in your answers, and you're not too afraid to say, oh, I don't know, that's a great question, we'll certainly find out and follow up with you, if those sorts of things, right? But the ideal situation in that Q&A is that you're able to answer you anticipated those questions, right? And part of kind of the SWOT analysis that did or situation analysis that you did in one form or another in your business plan is anticipating those questions. Right? So this is my idea of what the components of a winning pitch are. For tonight, what we're going to really be focusing on is actually the pitch and the Q&A. For whom are you doing it? Your target market. Why you do it so well, right? Why you do it so well. And then lastly, what you need. Even an elevator pitch, you want to be able to, at the end, have some sort of ask too, right?
Yeah, this one, the elevator pitch is so valuable.
Yeah.
I mean, what we're talking, the event that we have on Friday night, that's kind of a more informal. Basically, you'll be giving this a million times to everyone that comes up to the table. Or like when someone came up and just now asked you, so what's your business? Yeah. That's a short version of this. Yeah. Yeah.
Do we have to be at the mixer?
We can talk about afterwards if you scheduling wise, but that's the idea that you're going to give this more times than you'll give the full presentation, and it almost takes longer to write it because it's shorter. Yeah. Yeah. Really, I mean, we spent days trying to get it down to short enough to concise enough on ours. Yeah. Go ahead.
Do we have to hit the 90-second mark, or can we go below it a little bit?
Oh yeah. Below.
For the purpose of the competition, you're cut off at 90 seconds. Right. A lot of them are 60. The video that we sent you, they were recommending 60. So it's somewhat flexible. Yeah, 60. No one's gonna be timing you. The point behind it is at 90 seconds that it needs to be fairly short. Yeah. A minute to minute and a half. Right. Or if your idea is so brilliantly simple and you can hone it down to 45 seconds, no one's going to deduct points because hey, you're only 45 seconds, right? If you're too short because you don't include the essential components, then that's a little bit of an issue, right? But I say write it out verbatim, even little cues, pause, whatever, write it out. And practice it, and that Friday night event would be a good opportunity for that, right? Exactly. All right. So, some do's and don'ts of the pitch. I know some of this is pretty simple, right, hokey and all that, but I think it's really important, right? Look nice, right? What do I mean by that, right? If you're coming up either as a team or individually, I'm kind of looking at kind of the recap, video from I think the competition, 2 years ago, yeah. Dress to impress, right? And if you're working as a team, make sure it'd be cool to kind of coordinate a little bit, things like that. You don't have to be twinsies, but hey, wear dark blazer, white light shirt, things like that, right? Yes.
Does it have to be business type clothing?
No, for your idea, you may come in like a chef's outfit or something like that, right? Something that kind of represents your company, something that's kind of creative, right? But don't come showing up like you don't care and, you're just rushing from class or something like that. That, it's something, a reflection of, the culture that you want to present in your company.
Yeah, you want to show that you've thought about it and that it's intentional. Yeah. So if you show up in some kind of costume that fits in your business, but you did it on purpose, and you obviously did it on purpose, then that's probably fine. Yeah. If there's not something obvious, right, show up looking presentable, professional, you thought about it, there's a reason why you're doing it, right? Everyone in your team might show up in t-shirts, but they're all, have your logo and your, right? So you have to think about it. And
yeah, that's a really good point. And, don't show up in, with something bright and shiny that kind of distracts from your presentation too, right? So you don't want to go all the way to what is she wearing, that sort of thing, right? But for you might just want to come in a chef's coat or something like that, whatever, right? Without the hat or something.
Well, last year one gal presented an idea for online wedding dress retail. So she had just gotten married, so she did her presentation in her wedding dress, and it caught everyone's attention, but it was very intentional. Right. So you wouldn't have done that for any other business. Yeah. But
or she could have brought a friend to model it or whatever, right? If you don't want to do it, right? But so look nice. I said earlier, right? I said there's a fine line between being confident and being arrogant. right? So please be confident but humble, right? What do I mean by that? In kind of your presentation, it's about really focusing on the substance of your idea, right? So I would avoid hyperboles like, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, there's no competitor, no anything like that, right? You want to be really firm and really be able to exude, some level of confidence, but people love humility. I'm sorry, maybe some people disagree, maybe it's just in terms of my experience in life and dealing with people and all that. Humility goes a long way, right? But be ready for Q&A. Be ready for Q&A. You could do like, on scale of 1 to 10, do a 10 in terms of your presentation. And then the judges are clapping. Audience gives you a standing ovation. And then time for Q&A. And judge asks you a question that you maybe didn't think about. It can really quickly go off the rails. Right? Yeah.
What types of questions do they typically ask?
Well, that's why when you did your business plan, you do kind of the SWOT analysis, right? You look at your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, right? Or a situation analysis. So you want to go ahead and sit down with your team, or you're by yourself, maybe go ahead and present your ideas to certain people, right? People you trust that will say, hey, that's great, Kimmy, it's really great. That can really give you some honest feedback about your idea. That's a good exercise to go through in terms of anticipating questions. But hopefully through doing your SWOT analysis, you already know kind of the types of questions. You're going to try to poke holes in, your competitors. If you say, hey, there's limited competition, they may say, what do you think, about this and that, or did you know about this, Or they'll probably ask questions about, I will tell you, they most likely will ask you questions about barriers to entry, right? Barriers to entry. To what extent is your product or service replicable by someone else, right? By someone that has unlimited funds and things like that and can put $1 million, put $50 million overnight, replicate what you do, right? So that's often asked is your barriers to entry, right? So in your situation, they may ask, hey, what's to stop someone else from doing this? Even, especially if you're going to be so successful as you are, right? Those sorts of things. But really, it has to do with kind of thoughtful 360 review of your pitch by other people and say, hey, help me poke holes in this, right? So the key thing about Q&A is, because it's sometimes hard, especially if judge rubs you the wrong way and thinks they're picking on you or asking a question and all that, listen intently to the judge, right? Make eye contact, listen, right? Nod your head, making sure that you kind of understand. And you do the same with judges, right? Don't get a bit defensive and things like that, right? If you show the judge the courtesy that you're listening and that questions are valid and all that, even if you can't answer, it's okay. I'm sorry to say I don't know. It takes a lot more courage to say I don't know, or that's a great question. I really didn't think about that part. Would you allow me to do more research or something, and I'll get back to you personally on that.
Yeah, we'll say that you'll follow up with them or you'll get back to them is really valuable.
Yeah. Because they don't expect you to have all the answers. As judges, their job is to poke holes.
Right.
They're gonna, make sure in a nice way, right? Rally you a bit and all that, right? I would almost say if you do well in the Q&A, it just leaves a great last impression.
And if they're asking difficult questions, chances are it's because you have a good idea that's worth asking difficult questions. If the judge thinks it's useless, they're probably not going to bother.
Yeah.
Or they're asking something easy because it's not worth their time. Yeah. But if they're asking you like a difficult, specific question, it's probably because they think you're really close, but they just want to, the last bit.
And chances are, the types of questions I'll ask you are probably something you've already thought of, because you'll be spending a lot of hours doing this. So the questions they're going to ask you might be like he was saying with the SWOT analysis, it might be something, a weakness or a threat. And so you'll be kind of already thinking about those, like, oh, this is a loophole. Okay, this is a threat or a weakness that I have. I'm going to write this down. Maybe I don't have an immediate solution right away, but I'm going to be like, you can kind of, with this presentation too, you can have fun with it. You can say, this is in my 5-year plan, my 10-year plan of the business, and kind of say like, I'm going to work towards doing this by my 5th year, if it's something that doesn't have to be taken care of right away. So having kind of like a plan like that is going to be helpful just for yourself and also answering some of those questions. So
Yeah. So definitely prepare for the Q&A. Right? It's kind of like preparing for a job interview. It is. It's, okay, what they're going to ask me about my strengths and weaknesses. They're going to ask me what my perfect day is. They're going to ask me, tell me about a situation in which you encountered conflict and how you handled it, right? Those sorts of things. You wouldn't go, the proper way to prepare for a job interview is to actually anticipate those questions, write it out, and answer them, practice answering them. So it's almost like, nothing the judge asks, and as I understand it, the judges are, really, really cool people.
Yeah, they'll be nice, but they will ask you difficult questions.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be a surprise. The difficult questions should be kind of sometimes the most obvious questions if you go ahead and just solicit feedback. And then maybe the Friday nights, maybe an opportunity for people to go ahead and, hey, ask me questions.
Yeah, that's
like
a great idea.
Yeah.
It's a good chance to...
Yeah, it might be something you say, yeah, exactly. That's what you want to do. The help from your, peers and all that. Hey, help, don't tell me I have a great idea, or a great business, or a great pitch. Tell me all the holes so I can be ready. Okay? So I said, it's okay not to have all the answers, and smile. A smile goes a really long way. It's simple, but let's talk about some don'ts. Okay? Generally, no more than 10 to 15 slides for this competition, right? And I would, and then I think, how many minutes do you have for the presentation?
12 and 5 for Q.
Okay, 12. What's the word? How strict are you to that timeline?
It's cut off at 12.
Okay.
So if you're on your last slide but you're not done.
Yeah. Or if you're on slide 5 and it's 12 minutes.
Then you're really in trouble.
Yeah. So again, with that,
then your Q&A is going to be really difficult.
Yeah. And what you want to do with that is, of course, practice your presentation. Generally speaking, 12 minutes, 10 to 15 slides should be a breeze. It should be a breeze, right? Wordy slides, right? So the purpose of the slide is not to tell your story, right? It's to highlight certain things to the judges about your ideas and all that, right? The slide is a supplement, isn't your speaking tool. The thing with wordy slides, what often happens is this, no more than 10 to 15 slides, wordy slides, too much, you're reading and you're not engaging with the judges, with the audience, right? And also the thing about the wordy slide is, as the audience, you're actually looking up, you're looking at that, right? You're not looking at me, right, where I'm doing most of the selling, right? So avoid wordy slides, right? The only exception to that is, again, I've had instances where we've used a PowerPoint format as kind of the quasi-business plan, right? But that's really meant to send as a supplement, not for presentation purposes, right? So we're too much detail, right? We often think that, hey, I need to include as much detail as possible in my slide so that I address any and all questions and all that. The flip side is that you may be raising some questions too with the detail. And in the same theme as wordy slides, too much detail, people are like kind of straining and trying to look, what do you mean by that? You have like a, to you it may kind of be pretty and things like that, but too much detail distracts from the attention. right? Your goal, right, for the presentation, the judges should be focusing on you and what you have to say and your presence, not looking at the slide and hearing wah, 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 wah in the background, right? So too much detail isn't good as well.
And you don't need to put every line item of your budget
Yeah,
the first year
yeah,
on the
yeah, exactly.
read it.
Exactly. Yeah, they're going to be strained trying to read it and all that. Style versus substance, right? It's a balance. Yeah, you kind of want to make kind of your slides kind of nice and uniform and all that, right? But if you're counting on how pretty your slide is to win the competition, good luck, right? So there has to be balance between style and substance, right? You can have a, you know, if you're a graphic designer by heart, or your brother is and he wants to help you with, that's fine and all that, but make sure that there's substance in your slides, right? Don't just, hey, that looks really pretty, right? Hey, you use cool graphics and things like that, but there's no substance to it, right? So don't overestimate that my slide looks cool. You may have some videos embedded in it. You may have some animation, things like, oh yeah, and you know, if that's properly offset by good substance in your slide, that's great, right? So don't overestimate, you know, how pretty my slide looked, and that's gonna, you know, carry the day, because it isn't, right? Especially for investors and all that. What they care about is the bottom line. My ROI, I'm writing a big check, I'm taking a huge risk, there better be substance in my slides. Don't disparage the competition, or in the same way I said earlier, don't say, hey, we really have no competitors, or hey, our competitors suck, they stink, they don't know what they're doing, right? You know, there's ways of doing that. You know, you can point out, our competitors focus on this, and you can do like a quadrant, you know, 4 quadrants, and price, quality, blah, and then you kind of put folks where they're at, right? But don't disparage the competition. Number one, your focus on that presentation is on your business idea, right? On your proposition, why, right? And so you don't need to kind of talk bad about the competition and all that, right? And then, I know this is hard. I know it's kind of, don't oversell. And that goes to my earlier comment about, you know, using hyperbole either in the wording up there or in your, you know, this is the greatest thing, and you know, you make it kind of a you know, a circus act, like, no, you know, you won't believe what, you know, that sort of thing, right? It's overselling that kind of is also, can also be kind of a bit of a distraction, right? Your business idea, your pitch to stand on its own merit, right? And if you deliver it in a confident and humble manner, right? And really how confident you are will be in terms of how prepared you are, right? If you're well prepared, you did your homework, you prepped for the Q&A, you practice those sorts of things, it'll come through, right? And that'll carry the day, not, you know, again, overselling, right? So don't oversell your idea, right? So I'm pretty sure, I don't know, you have any more do's or don'ts? Otherwise, that's kind of...
Yeah, not too... one do that was powerful for ours was sometimes, especially with the competition, this is more the case with the competition than you're actually pitching to an investor, right? It's easy in the competition to talk about your company as if it's an idea, or that in the future it might be a company, instead of talking about it as an actual company, right? So, you know, we are Four Corners Roasting Company, this is what we do. Not, my idea is this, or in the future we're going to think about this. It's real already. Because if you don't believe it's real, the investor definitely isn't going to believe it's real.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah. Talk, you know, in terms of kind of how you set up the slide and the language you use, talk in the present tense, right? Right, that this is just around the corner. This isn't, you know, something that you have, yeah, go ahead.
Are we allowed to have like paper in our hand to like kind of look over or not?
You can. I don't suggest you do.
Right.
You'll be able to see the slides. I think for the competition, we'll have a monitor in the front that'll have the PowerPoint, so you won't even have to look behind you to see what.
Yeah, it may be something like this, but that's the ideal situation.
Sure.
But if you need like the note cards.
I think I used note cards when
Yeah,
we did it.
yeah. It's not a huge deal with bullet points where you kind of think about it. The why we kind of discourage using it is because you end up
don't read it,
reading it and all that, right? It just cues for you, right? I have someone kind of just write on their hand, so the note card is
right?
Yeah. Just a broad hey, here are the 5 parts of things that I really want to highlight, right? That sort of thing. Okay. So those are the do's and don'ts. And that's kind of the end. Q&A. And then here's my email. If you want, if you have any questions about your particular, as you're preparing your deck, and that's to the people that will be watching it, email me. If you have any questions, hey, what do you think? Hey, I'm running to this roadblock. I'd be more than happy to give some feedback and input.
That's very valuable, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I need to run to the bathroom.
Okay.
That's probably it. I'll be back.
Thank you, John.